Hey everyone, this is Jake Munger. You are listening to the Zoologist Podcast. I hope you're ready. We've got a very exciting episode on tap for today. We're going to be learning more about some of the amazing creatures that inhabit our planet. We're going to be learning facts and hearing stories, all centered around animals, all centered around the animal kingdom. I hope you're as excited to go on this journey as I am. Now let's get ready to get wild. Thank you once again so much for hopping on and listening to today's episode of the Zoologist Podcast. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your week, and I hope you're ready because we have got a very exciting episode on tap for today. We are going to be learning about an animal with a vicious reputation, the Tasmanian Devil. When European explorers first saw these marsupials, they were shocked and horrified by their behavior, from the way that they ate to their terrifying screams. Ever since then, the Tasmanian Devil has gained notoriety for being vicious, dangerous, and ill-tempered. But do these animals really deserve the reputation that they've gained? In this episode, we'll discuss where this reputation comes from and why it may not be completely justified. Let's dive in. Thank you once again so much for hopping on and listening to today's episode of the Zoologist Podcast. You might have noticed, but I got another new mic. I finally splurged and decided to get myself something really nice. And I gotta say, so far, I am not regretting it. This mic is fantastic. It's a lot easier to use with my computer too. So the sound quality is finally starting to get to be where I want it. Still want to try to improve it. Still want to try to get it better. But so far, so good. I'm liking this mic a lot. If you are a first-time listener to the show, please be sure to subscribe and follow on your favorite streaming platform if you like what you hear today. Also, be sure to leave a rating and review. Thank you so much to those of you who have already left ratings. It is not only helpful feedback, it also helps the show become more visible on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify and whatever other streaming platform that you're using. So please be sure to leave a rating and review if you haven't already. Thanks again to those of you who already have. Alrighty, let's dive into today's topic. Let's learn a little bit more about the Tasmanian Devil. And I think it's fair to say that the Tasmanian Devil doesn't have the best reputation. I mean, if you were to ask most people about Tasmanian Devils, I think the first thing that would come to mind would probably be the Looney Tunes character, which I think most people recognize as an exaggeration, but it still kind of perpetuated this idea of the Tasmanian Devil as a vicious brute, ill-tempered, aggressive, maybe dangerous, generally something to be avoided. And this is a reputation that's persisted ever since the first European explorers came across these creatures. I mean, they were absolutely terrified by these things, by the way they behaved, by the way they ate, and definitely by their hissy fits, their famous fits of temper, their screams, the shrieks, the growls, the noises that they made. And this reputation that they gained from these early explorers has been perpetuated to the present day. It's kind of what led to the depiction of the Tasmanian Devil in Looney Tunes, and it's kind of kept up to the modern day. And as we're going to learn today, it's not entirely the case. I mean, it's not like these animals are fluffy bunnies or anything, but there's definitely a lot more to them than meets the eye. And in many ways, they don't deserve the vicious reputation that they've gained. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to learn about some of the characteristics, some of the traits, some of the behaviors that led to the Tasmanian Devil gaining this reputation. And then in the second part of this episode, we're going to go over some of the reasons why they maybe don't deserve this view, this perception that people have of them. And then hopefully we can walk away with an overall better understanding of these creatures. Some quick background information about the Tasmanian Devil. If you've never seen one of these creatures in real life, just know that they look nothing like the Looney Tunes character. They're short and stocky. They walk on 4 legs, and they have black fur, often with white patches on it. They have a long snout and round ears. Basically, imagine kind of like a bear mixed with a dog, mixed with a rat, and you've kind of got the Tasmanian Devil. They're native to Tasmania, as their name suggests. If you don't know where that is, it's a small island off the coast of Southeast Australia. They used to live on the Australian mainland as well, but they went extinct there. Some sources say it was about 3,000 years ago. Others say it was about 400 years ago. Either way, it probably had something to do with competition from the introduced dingo. The good news is that a new population of Tasmanian devils was reintroduced to the Australian mainland in 2020. So how exactly did the Tasmanian devil receive its fearsome reputation? Well, it probably starts with the fact that Tasmanian devils are carnivores. In fact, they're arguably Tasmania's top predator. These devils, they can grow to be about 2.5 feet long, or 26 centimeters, for those of you using the metric system, and they can weigh up to 26 pounds, which is almost 12 kilograms. That may not sound like a lot, but it's enough to make the Tasmanian devil the largest carnivorous marsupial currently alive. And Tasmanian devils, they have a number of different features, a number of different adaptations and characteristics that have allowed them to reach the top of the food chain within their ecosystem. Probably the most prominent of these features is their bite. If you look at a Tasmanian devil, one of the first things that you'll notice about it is that it has a very large head and very large jaws. These jaws are lined with razor-sharp teeth, and they are extremely powerful. In fact, the Tasmanian devil has the most powerful bite of any mammal relative to its size. This bite is strong enough for the animal to be able to crush bones and chew through metal. Beyond this bite, Tasmanian devils also have an array of finely tuned senses that help it when it's searching for food. For example, they have a very good sense of hearing, a very keen sense of smell, and they have excellent night vision, which is helpful because these animals are nocturnal. Now, it's not all strengths when it comes to the Tasmanian devil. They also have some weaknesses. For example, they aren't particularly fast. Their front legs are longer than their hind legs, which gives them kind of an awkward-looking gait, kind of a loping walk. And it prevents them from being able to reach speeds faster than 8 miles per hour. But what the Tasmanian devil lacks in speed, it makes up for in perseverance and persistence. These animals can travel up to 10 miles in a single night just looking for a meal. And speaking of their meals, Tasmanian devils are also well known for being voracious eaters. This is one of the things that the cartoon actually might have gotten right. These animals are known for having quite the appetite. When they hunt down live prey, they have, as a species, a varied diet that might consist of birds, reptiles, frogs, fish, small mammals, and they've even been known to hunt down larger animals like wallabies and small kangaroos. When they eat, they can eat a lot of food. They've been known to devour up to 40% of their own body weight in a single sitting. And because of how strong their jaws are, they can make sure that there's nothing left. Hide, hair, and bone can all be consumed by the Tasmanian devil. Now, these animals are usually solitary, but when they feed, they'll gather in large groups. They kind of have these communal feasts. And it's during these communal feasts that the more terrifying side of this animal is put on display. See, everything that I've mentioned so far, just by itself, probably wouldn't be enough to make the Tasmanian devil seem sinister. But it's really this animal's legendary temper that has built its reputation. And one of the times that this temper is on display is during these animals' feeding rituals. When these animals feed, they make a lot of noise. I'm talking about growling, hissing, shrieking, screaming, and unearthly sounds too. I mean, you can go on YouTube and listen to them. They are absolutely terrifying. It's not hard to see why people are so scared of these animals. These hissy fits, it's just a lot of posturing, a way for these animals to assert dominance over one another and make sure that they're getting their share of the carcass. And they go beyond just making a lot of noise. They can also make physical displays and even get aggressive with one another, attack one another. These feeding rituals are one of the times that this temper is on display, but it's not the only time. Mating is also a time that these animals throw tantrums, I guess you could say. When males fight for mates, they can fight each other viciously. And then obviously when these animals feel threatened, they'll also act out. So with all this in mind, it really isn't hard to see why the first European explorers were so scared of these things. I mean, they were experiencing these animals for the first times in their lives, And just seeing these things, the behavior, the noises that they would make, must have been absolutely terrifying to them. And it probably didn't help that they are nocturnal as well. So just imagine you're trying to sleep. You're already in a strange place. You're probably out in the middle of a forest somewhere, and you just hear these haunting shrieks and growls coming from all around you. Huge groups of these animals making all this noise. Unfortunately for the Tasmanian Devil, this is how they would receive their name. In fact, comparing this animal to Satan was not uncommon during this time period. Early explorers often referred to it as Beelzebub's pup, and some of its early scientific names were Sarcophagus satanicus, which means satanic flesh eater, and a Diabolus ursinus, which means devil bear. Also, unfortunately for the Tasmanian Devil, this meant that they had a poor reputation with settlers in the area as well, who were trying to raise livestock. They saw the Tasmanian Devil as a pest that was a threat to their livelihood, and so a bounty system was introduced during the 1800s that would almost succeed in eradicating this species. Fortunately, they gained protected status in 1941 and were able to avoid extinction, but the poor reputation of this animal persisted, and it's continued to persist to the modern day. As we're about to learn in the next part of this episode, this reputation that they have is exaggerated. And when we come back, we're going to learn about some of the reasons that Tasmanian devils do not deserve the perception that some people have of them. Don't go anywhere. Are you a brand new podcaster, hoping to share what you're passionate about to whoever's willing to listen, but you aren't sure where to start? Navigating the logistics of your podcast can be confusing, from tracking growth to getting your podcast on the biggest platforms like Apple and Spotify. That's why I use Captivate. Captivate is a podcast publishing site that's user-friendly and offers everything you need to fulfill your podcast's full potential. They'll help you publish your podcast to all of the most popular platforms, as well as help you track your growth through daily, weekly, 28, and 90-day download numbers, as well as the averages, so you can see where your podcast might be flourishing or floundering. What's more, they'll help you with promotion and advertising. They offer free courses on how to start and run the perfect podcast, and they even throw in a free website with your subscription, completely customizable to fit your podcast's personality. You can sign up now starting at $19 a month, and you'll even get a free 7-day trial so you can decide whether or not it's right for you. Sign up today at the.zoologist.net/captivate, and what's more, you'll be supporting my show. Captivate truly is a podcaster's best friend. Welcome back as we continue our discussion about the Tasmanian Devil. So far we've talked a little bit about some of the traits, some of the characteristics that Tasmanian Devils have that may have led to their current poor reputation. And now what we're going to do is we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about some of the reasons why this reputation may not be deserved, why the Tasmanian Devil is somewhat misunderstood. And let's start by talking about their most famous attribute, the attribute that probably built this reputation in the first place, which is their temper. While it is true that Tasmanian devils are known to fly into a rage, and while it is true that they can be quite aggressive with one another, there are a couple things to keep in mind when it comes to this temper. When they're confronted with a threat and when they throw their quote-unquote hissy fits, this is much more often an act of fear than it is of true aggression. This animal is trying to posture, it's trying to make itself seem scarier than it really is, as a way for it to avoid a real fight and to avoid any real injuries. In fact, these animals are actually quite shy and timid, and they prefer to avoid confrontation whenever they can. For this reason, Tasmanian devils actually aren't dangerous to human beings. Handlers have expressed that they're surprisingly easy to work with, and they can even be tamed. Now, they do make terrible pets. They release a foul odor that's been compared to a skunk's, and they don't respond to or show any affection. So I don't recommend having a Tasmanian devil as a pet, but it is possible to tame them. So while they're famous the world over for their nasty tempers, and they do have bad tempers, this isn't the whole story when it comes to the Tasmanian devil. There's a lot more to these animals than meets the eye. The view of this animal as a livestock killing pest was also an exaggerated one. Tasmanian devils don't hunt and eat livestock such as sheep or cattle. They might pick off injured, weak, or young individuals, and they have been known to attack and eat chickens and ducks. But modern-day farmers actually like having Tasmanian devils around because they perform an important service. Tasmanian devils, we've talked about how they're the top predators in Tasmania. They are known to hunt down and kill live prey, but they're actually primarily scavengers. In fact, they've been called the vacuum cleaners of the forest because of their ability to completely dispose of carcasses. For this reason, they perform a vital service to the Tasmanian environment because getting rid of these carcasses reduces the number of invasive pests such as feral cats and foxes. In the case of livestock and agriculture, scavenging reduces the number of insects and other pests that may actually be harmful to the farmer's livestock. So for this reason, modern-day agriculturists in Tasmania like having the devils around because they perform an important service on their farms. Another interesting fact about the Tasmanian devil is that they're actually picky eaters, which breaks the mold of traditional scavengers. Scavengers as we expect them. These animals have specific foods, favorite foods, that they like to stick to, and they don't like to branch out from very often. In one study, scientists tracked the diet of 71 Tasmanian devils by analyzing the chemical imprints on their whisker samples. What they found was that only about 1 in 10 of these Tasmanian devils had what's called a generalist diet, which means that they'll eat just about anything they come across. The rest of them had favorite foods that they preferred to dine on, be it parrots, it could be wallabies, it could be opossums, whatever it was, these animals almost always would stick to eating these foods. This kind of behavior is, again, extremely unusual in scavengers because usually scavengers will just eat whatever comes their way. Scientists believe that the reason that this behavior evolved in Tasmanian devils was, well, simply because they could. They didn't have a whole lot of, and they still don't have a whole lot of competition on the island of Tasmania for rotting carcasses, for carrion, and so it's easy for them to be able to pick and choose which kinds of animals and what kind of meat they want to eat the most. Now, unlike their reputation as vicious brutes, this perception of the Tasmanian devil as a livestock killing menace is one that hasn't persisted. Tasmanian devils became protected species in 1941, and after their brush with extinction, their numbers were able to rebound. Unfortunately, Tasmanian devils today face new threats, such as cars. Because Tasmanian devils are scavengers, they have a habit of trying to feed on roadkill, and in the process, they often become roadkill themselves. But the biggest threat to Tasmanian devils today is a disease called the devil facial tumor disease. And as the name suggests, this is a kind of cancer where tumors grow on the face of Tasmanian devils. And because these tumors often grow around the mouth and the snout, it makes it difficult for the animals to eat, and death often comes via starvation. This is a cancer that's only found in Tasmanian devils, and there are many organizations working to save these creatures from extinction. Currently, these new threats have caused their population numbers to decline, and the animal is currently listed as endangered by the IUCN. Well, that just about wraps up what we have for today's episode. Hopefully, you've enjoyed learning more about the Tasmanian devil, and hopefully you've gained a new appreciation for these incredible marsupials. While it is true that their tantrums are legendary, there's so much more to these animals than meets the eye, and in reality, they're very shy, they're very timid, and they really just prefer to be left alone. Let's just hope that these threatened animals continue to survive and thrive into the future as one of Tasmania's most iconic animals. Thank you once again so much for hopping on and listening to today's episode of the Zoologist Podcast. Once again, I really hope you had a great time learning more about the Tasmanian devil. If you'd like to learn even more about these carnivorous marsupials, be sure to check out the research links. So these are a few of the resources that I used to put together today's episode. So go ahead and check those out if you get a chance and learn more about the Tasmanian devil. If you have an animal or a topic that you would like to learn more about on the podcast, please be sure to reach out. You can reach out over Twitter at the.zoologist.net/Twitter, or you can reach out to us via email at the.zoologist.podcast@gmail.com. Make sure to have a great rest of your week, and as always, have a wild day.